What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another album review, and today I am talking about probably the most anticipated release of the weekend of May 24th, and one of the most anticipated albums for the entire month of May, and that is the latest offering from Greek extreme metal legends Rotting Christ with Pro XRISTOU, which might be wrong, but it's Greek for Before Christ. This came out on May 24th, this time on Season of Mist, and of course this is their 15th album overall, and I have actually reviewed their last two albums on this channel, back when I didn't know really how to review albums, Rituals and The Heretics, and it's been 5 years since The Heretics came out, so it's been a long gap between albums. I think this is probably the longest gap they've ever had. So I was eagerly anticipating this one, even though I didn't check out the singles. I wanted to wait until I heard the album straight ahead, and, well, it sounds like a modern Rotting Christ album, which, if you've listened to the last couple of albums, particularly Rituals and The Heretics, you kind of know where Rotting Christ has been going. Like, lots of chants and, like, tribal rhythms, but mixing in some, like, death metal and death doom and melodic death metal kind of thrown into the mix. Not really any black metal. Like, I know this band is one of the pioneering bands of the Greek black metal scene, or the Greek metal scene in general, but I have to say, there's really no black metal on this really to speak of. Kicking things off with the title track, which was just an intro, but it was cool. It was like a thick, doomy riff fest for about 90 seconds, and then it gets into The Apostate, which this song kind of goes for the throat when it comes to, like, death metal, like triplet chugs and blasts that just feel directly death metal oriented. And then there's even like a cool triplet chug in the bridge that kind of feels like a big military march, and it gets groovy and doomy in certain aspects of the song. But the big thing that stands out about this track, the soaring melodies and clean chants going on, it kind of gave it a little bit of a folky feel to it. And that's going to be a common theme throughout this album, is the big melodies. After all, the melodies are amplified thanks to the production help from Jens Bogren. He mixed and mastered, while Sakis Tolis did the main recording production, but mixed and mastered by Jens Bogren. But anyways, and then we get into maybe my favorite song of the album as a whole, Like Father, Like Son, which was one of the big singles off of the album. I think it might have been the first single. This song, like the melodic riffs that are coming up in this track, feel heroic, yet they're filled with sorrow, kind of like Iron Maiden a little bit. But it's pretty doomy, like it's more of a death doom track, but you get this like big lumbering groove that felt like something out of Bolt Thrower's The Fourth Crusade, like the song The Fourth Crusade. It kind of gave me that feeling. And the vocals, like, Sakis has an interesting delivery when it comes to his vocals, and that's kind of like rough grunting, but they're closer to death metal, I would say, or even close to like modern Tom G. Warrior vocals. But one of the other big things that stood out to me the most about this track in particular was the lead. Kind of had a, dare I say, a David Gilmour feeling to it, where it was all about the melody and the atmosphere as opposed to just like shredding on the neck on the fretboard. It was all about adding more to the atmosphere that the song is delivering. And I like solos like that because it definitely represents what the song is talking about. After all, this whole album, like, conceptually, it's inspired by pagan wisdom in the BC years of planet Earth. So it definitely adds to the atmosphere and the melodies this album has, and pretty much every single song has touches of melody except for maybe one track, and I'll get to that track later. But then we get into The Sixth Day. This, and dare I say even the couple songs later with The Farewell, both of these songs have some heavy nods to Judas Priest. Like in the case of The Sixth Day, it's mainly the melody and the riff progression that feels like Judas Priest, but it's more of a doom-laden track. And then with the Farewell, this one kind of definitely has more Judas Priest-esque riffs going on, but with melodic progressions and even chugs that just build atmosphere with a faint melody on top of it. Then, in between those two songs, you get a track, and I'm going to have to try to pronounce this, La Letra del Diavolo? Diavolo? Yeah, La Letra del Diavolo. I can't even fucking get it right without screwing it up. Anyways, track 5. Bells, drum intros, female vocals, acoustic guitars. Then it gets into a triplet rhythm with dark riffs and blast beats. And it's again another doom stomper. But then we get into the final 4 tracks where it kind of really shined through for me. Pixelax Dax, I probably got that one wrong, starts off with acoustics and a lead melody. And then this is maybe the one and only time on the album where you get anything black metal, and it's the big tremolo melody on top of like a lumbering bolt thrower groove. So it's almost like if bolt thrower had a black metal tremolo melody on top. And the melodies throughout this track, it's gorgeous with the doom that's going on within the riff work. Then we get into Pretty World, Pretty Dies. This one might have been the most sinister sounding song of the album. It's a bluesy rhythm, but with dissonant riffs, and they feel closer to Mastodon dissonant riffs. Like the rhythms, the riffs, the melodies feel a lot like Mastodon to me, and I really liked the song for that reason. It felt different from the other tracks on the album. And then the lead melodies evolve into a proper lead, and it's another one of those atmospheric leads. Then we get into the song Yggdrasil. This is another one of those big, heavy stompers. Maybe the heaviest song of the album. It's death metal all throughout. Triplet chugs, chunky riffs. It is just a onslaught of chug. And then to the closing track, Searis. I probably got that wrong. Chugging riff, but then it gets into a triplet swing, not a triplet chug, a triplet swing, kind of like Celtic Frost or even Black Sabbath. But again, those soaring melodies continue to cut through everything to add more dynamic. Now, as far as any complaints go, one production complaint, and I think it's kind of a common thing with Jens Bogren's production, sometimes during like the blast sections or the faster parts of songs, the snare sounds a little buried in the mix. But when it's groovy or slow, you can still hear the snare, but again, when it gets into the blasts or the faster moments, the snare can be kind of hard to hear at times. And then perhaps this album kind of falls into the well of maybe they got a bit too indulgent. Overindulgent, I should say, with the melodies. Even though I love melody, they might have touched on a little bit too much on here and not enough on the heaviness. But when it does get heavy, there are some heavy moments, and really the whole thing with the melodies, it's a double-edged sword. It's like sometimes you absolutely love it, and other times you're like, well, maybe adding a heavier section here wouldn't be bad. And then perhaps another common thing is that like a lot of the tracks start and end with like battle sounds, ambient, spoken word from Sakias, which those can be really cool, but they can be overdone at times. And I know that's been a part of their acumen for a while, but it was very prevalent on here. And then maybe another thing, I feel this album went maybe a little too epic for its own good. But at the same time, when Rotting Christ does epic stuff, it's done very, very well. So it's like, I'm nitpicking at this point, because song-wise, not a bad track on the album. Although I will say maybe the Farewell, whenever it gets into the chugs that build atmosphere, maybe the crescendo wasn't as strong as I would have liked it to have been. But other than those nitpicks, I still thoroughly enjoyed this album. Now, do I think it's better than the previous two? Maybe in terms of epicness, yes, but in terms of the overall feeling and the songs, Maybe not quite, but it's still a damn good album, great album, I'll say. I am going to give this a 4 out of 5. I thought that, for the most part, Rotting Christ continue to show why they love to evolve their sound and go away from black metal and then into like black and gothic metal, and now they're kind of more into the death metal side, like death metal, melodic death metal, death doom. No real black metal to speak of apart from one tremolo melody that was on Pixelax Stacks, if I'm even saying that right. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.
Thank you for your patronage.